Welcome to Student of the Game podcast, where we help you master the fundamentals, fall in love with practice, and win at the game of life. I'm your host, Brad Noll. Welcome to the classroom. Welcome back to another episode of Student of the Game. I'm your host, Brad Noll, and I'm with Doug Noll, my dad. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brad. Nice to be here.
So I had to call the coach. That's his hashtag, call the coach. And we've got a pretty fun episode today. It's fun for me. So if you don't enjoy this, I'm having fun anyway. So this might just be for me that we can record this episode of my dad and I having a conversation. But I think you have a fantastic story. I think it's a story that a lot of us can see ourselves in, and I think it's very appropriate for Student of the Game. So we're going to talk about you chasing after your passion and your career, and then having it being pulled out from underneath you and what you've done since then. So if you're listening right now and you have a goal and you feel like you failed at it, or you've tried something and it's been taken away from you, I think there's a greater purpose, and that's what we're going to share today. So why don't you take us back? Tell us a little bit about your start in Bern, Indiana, as a legendary basketball player, and tell us what that was like.
Well, in Bern, Indiana, which is about 4,000 people, there's not a whole lot to do back in the 60s and 70s other than play basketball. So my dad kind of got me started with that, playing some semi-professional basketball. And also, I think at one point in time, he was the last cut from Ball State after he came back from the service. So that was kind of ingrained in me early. And I just kind of had a passion for basketball. It seemed like it fit me and who I was. I tried football, got hit too hard. But basketball was always the sport for me. Now golf, and I played basketball and golf in high school, but loved basketball. We would play as much as we could till they turned out the lights at the school every night, and I was only a block away. So I played a lot of basketball growing up, and obviously wanted to play in college, and I did. So we just continued the journey, and it was a small town in Indiana, and kind of the basketball mecca. Our town is 4,000. Our high school is 400, and our new gym that I got my senior year seated 5,000 people, and we generally packed it out. So good weekend nights in Indiana, and that's what we had to do.
Well, like they say, it's just basketball in 49 other states, and it's different here. So for you listening, if you're not in Indiana, we've got a lot of listeners across the pond. We've got listeners in California and all over. If you've seen the movie Hoosiers, that's about as close to real life as my dad probably lived. Is the caravan of cars driving to the away games, and it's fun. You're in town right now because Delaney, my middle child, just started her basketball career in high school, and so she's got some games this week. You and Rhonda are in town for, but that's Indiana for you. It's basketball, and you packed the arenas. And tell us a little bit about your journey. You went to Division I school, like most kids. Probably got caught up. You got the attention of a Division I school, went to University of Wyoming, and that didn't work out, and then you transferred back to Grace College here in Winona Lake in Indiana. But what happened? We can skip some of the story, but what happened when you came back to Grace? I heard in 2.5 years you were the all-time leading scorer.
Well,
you had a pretty good career.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Not quite, but I enjoyed my year at the University of Wyoming, and really wasn't ready for Division I basketball. I decided to go back to Grace College in Winona Lake, Warsaw, Indiana. And Phil Hoskins, who happened to get the coaching job at Grace College, recruited me. And so I went back to Grace. I had to sit out my first semester. That was the rules back then. I actually should have set out the full year and then had 3 full years, but I didn't. And so I started my first games with Grace College out in the Virginia area. And remember, I didn't start my first game. And my second game, I had 39 points. And my third game, I had 30. So it kind of jump-started from there. My career average is somewhere around 27, 28 points a game at Grace College. But only playing 2.5 years, I'm not quite the leading scorer all-time at Grace. I do have some records, free throw and those types of things, and scoring per year.
Still to this day, or when you graduated?
Still to this day. my senior year, I happened to be the third leading scorer in the country behind Freeman Williams of Portland State and a guy named Larry Bird that most of you have heard of at Indiana State. And then I had 2 years in a row, the New Orleans Jazz sent our SID information that if I was a senior, they wanted the information. And so my senior year, they called up and I had a free agent tryout in the summer. Obviously, I wasn't good enough for the NBA, which I knew, but it was a lot of anticipation. And then I was going to go overseas to play, but Phil Hoskins had left my senior year, and Jim Kessler became my coach my senior year. And Phil called me up and said, I need an assistant coach at Malone College, now Malone University in Canton, Ohio. So I went over there and coached there for a year. But then the family had a real estate business, and that's really how I got into real estate in 1981. Started my real estate career when interest rate came down to 18% to buy a house.
Hold on, time out. This is not a real estate podcast, but I know a lot of realtors are listening, and a lot of realtors are kind of up in arms with the high interest rates. But you're saying you started in real estate at 18%.
Yeah, it came down from 21 in the late 70s, and so. I think if you could sell real estate at that point, it's just about any time you could sell real estate, and you would do different things. House prices had to come down a little bit, and again, back at that time, we didn't have $400,000 and $500,000 houses. We were selling $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 houses.
Yeah, but the average income probably wasn't 50, 60, 70,000 either, right? I mean, there's a trade-off to that. If somebody's listening right now and you're struggling in your business because you can't figure out how to sell something, I think it's important to go back to the fundamentals. Like, this podcast is all about mastering the fundamentals, and I want to make a real estate comment right now. People move because their lifestyle isn't suitable for the home that they're in or the apartment that they're in anymore, right? People get married and they want their own home. People have babies, they need a bigger home. Babies leave and they need to downsize. There's death, divorce, delinquency. There's moving. There's the number one reason people are moving today is to get closer to family. And so what I'm hearing you say is even in 18% interest rate environments, those lifestyle changes created people moving. There's always opportunity if you see it. And I guess, sorry to interrupt, but I think that's important to understand. Hello, you sold home. People were still moving at 18%, and it's because that's what the rate was when their lifestyle changed and needed to buy a home. Sorry for the shameless real estate plug there. So no back to the 80s, you're selling real estate in the family business.
Yeah, and during the 80s, I ended up owning 2 real estate companies and 2 auction companies, and with the auction company and your grandfather, Maynard Ms. Lehman, we would auction off farm ground, farm equipment. We would auction off antiques, collectibles. We would have estate sales. We auctioned off bowling alleys. We auctioned off daycare centers. So we were just kind of the general auctioneers of the area. And I really enjoyed that part of my life. But as I grew towards the end of the 80s and you started to play basketball.
This is a big part of this is a transition I want everybody to hear. So the transition comes, you're in auction, you're doing real estate auctions, you're in the family business, and now there's a transition. But before we get to that, I just want to give you one opportunity. We've never had an auctioneer on the podcast. And most people listening have probably never heard an auctioneer. Are you willing to auction for like 10 seconds?
Yeah, I suppose I could give it a try. It's been a while, but at 35 an ounce, 7.5 an ounce, $40. At 42 and a half an pie, 45, 7.5 an ounce, 50. Now 55, now 60. Yep. You're out in the back at 60, now 2.5 an pie, 65, now 7.5 an ounce, $70.
Oh my gosh, that's a mic drop. Oh, first time on the podcast, we got an auctioneer. This is unbelievable. Okay. All right.
Well, I should have gone 5,000, 10,000 and higher. I just started with the lower ones.
Hey,
but
you're good.
Anyways, it was probably selling some dishware or something like that. So it was a lot of fun.
This is awesome. If you're driving right now and you just heard an auctioneer coming through your speakers, you're probably thinking, what in the world are we talking about? But we've got a great podcast with my dad here. We're going to call the coach. But why is that important? Because there's a transition from auction. You were auctioning. You were the number one place, right? Like if somebody wanted to sell something, they came to you guys. You were the best at what you did in the community and around. and then a transition happened. What happened?
Well, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you started to grow up and got into the second, third grade where I was coaching you and some other players at South Adams, where we lived in Bern. And it just kind of clicked to get that desire back to coach again and to be a part of basketball. And so I actually had an offer from a coach at Indiana Wesleyan University. I don't even know if I told you this.
I've never go Wildcats.
But Dave Berline was at Seattle Pacific for a while, came back to Indiana Wesleyan, and I got to know him, and he wanted me to be his assistant coach at Indiana Wesleyan. Well, that was only about 45 minutes from my house, and I kind of thought if I just stayed in Bern and drove back and forth, I wasn't committed 100%. But I called Jim Kessler up at Grace College, and this was late 80s, and I asked him if he had any positions open, and he said, yeah, but they don't pay. So I had to talk to, the family and my wife and what do you think about this? I think it's pretty good. And everybody was like, what? You're not getting paid? And I said, well, we'll figure it out. So right about 1990, we packed up from Bern, sold our house in one day because somebody heard we were moving and we had built a new house. And so we ended up moving to Warsaw, and you went in the fourth and fifth grade, I believe it was, to Jefferson. And it was funny that I didn't realize at the time that the year before, and Grace College has always been pretty good in basketball. They won 10 games. And I never really gave that a thought that, well, they're not very good, but I'm coming up here to coach. And so
for free.
For free. So, well, kind of for free, but I've always got some ideas. Sometimes they don't work out, but other times, sometimes they work out. And my thought was, why don't I ask them if I could raise money for the athletic department, and then I get a percentage of it. And so they said, okay. So I was the development director, and I was the head golf coach for 2 years and the assistant basketball coach for 2 years. And during those 2 years, I recruited 2 players from Bern, Trent Lehman and
Ben Fox.
Ben Fox,
yeah.
Thank you. And both of them helped us win the national championship my second year at Grace College. We were 32-5. And that springboarded me to the next phase of my life when we moved out of Warsaw, moved to Spring Arbor, Michigan, and Spring Arbor University.
So what was it like? So here you are, you're in real estate, the most successful real estate company around, and you get this itch. One part you left out is we went 10-0. So our basketball team went 10-0, didn't lose. So at this point, your coaching record is flawless. You know, you're batting 1,000% at this point.
I should have stopped right then, I think. But
well, I think the story is really cool about how, you know, and anybody who knows me knows that, you know, I love goal setting, I love dreaming, I love achieving, I love action. You know, I think big, and I follow my heart, my passion, and a lot of that comes from, you know, what was modeled, you know, at home, you know, for me. From what you and mom did, and for you to understand the story now, having kids, it hits a lot different than it did back then, as the kids say, and so you went there without a promise of a paycheck of like I want this so bad, I'm willing to come up with ways in which I can make a living by doing what I love, and I think that's, for me, that's a lesson that's always stuck. And if you're out there thinking about like you're struggling in your business, I think the first question to ask is like, are you even passionate about this? You know, I talk to my team all the time. Like, you know, nobody on my team, and I know this for a fact, haven't asked them yet, but I know this for a fact, nobody on my team grew up saying, I want to be a realtor. Like, none of them. Like, real estate just kind of, you happen to fall into it. But what it can do for you, it provides so many opportunities, but you got to do something with it. And I think for me, I look at you taking that passion of like, I really want to do this, and I'll figure it out. And it's awesome. So I want to celebrate that. Yeah. So you won a national championship at Grace. Now all of a sudden it's like, okay, do I want to do this full time? Can I do this full time? You kind of probably got some confidence from being on the staff at Grace, where you won a national title. You saw what the process was. You know, we talk about mastering the fundamentals and falling in love with practice. You made a shooting video to make some money. I remember rebounding for you. We don't have to go back to the archives there, but there's a VHS out there somewhere where you and I have some shorts hiked up and wearing some Reebok pumps, I think, on a free throw shooting video.
Yeah.
But then you went to Spring Arbor, had massive success at Spring Arbor. That's where I kind of say I grew up. That's my formative years in middle school and high school there. I'm glad that you took the job at Spring Arbor because that's where I met Lindsay. But you had a very successful career. Why don't you take us to kind of the end of that career when you get a call to come to Fort Wayne, and a couple calls to come to Fort Wayne.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, real quick, when I went up to Spring Arbor, they had not won 10 games in a season in 10 years, and that was another challenge. And I remember an interview with 7 guys in suits asking me what my goals were for Spring Arbor. And I said, well, to go to the national tournament next year. And they all started laughing at me. And I was kind of like taken aback. But I said, well, we're going to have to change the culture, the mindset, the work ethic, and completely revamp everything. We got to get some better players. And I started out with Jim Linhart, who played at South Adams. And we ended up the first year winning 18 games and came within 21 seconds going to the national tournament. So, those goals pushed me through Spring Arbor to where we were number 2 and number 4 in the country from that standpoint. But it was my fourth year at Spring Arbor. I had job interviews at Grand Valley State and also Indiana, Purdue, Fort Wayne. And obviously, I'm from the Fort Wayne area. Burn's about 30 miles south. But I came down, and you were going to be a sophomore in high school, and talked to Coach Rob Irwin, who used to come to Lancer basketball camp when he was little. We ended up talking about coming to Carroll High School, but for some reason, I was offered the job at IPFW, and it was probably 1996, but for some reason, it just didn't fit or feel right to me. And I remember driving back to Spring Arbor and talking to Butch Perchan, who was the athletic director at the time, and I said, it's not the right time. And so we stayed for another 3 years, and you got to finish your high school career at Jackson County Western. And then IPFW called back again 3 years later, and you'd already signed and committed with Spring Arbor University. Mm-hmm. So there's a whole nother story there if you want to go down that path.
Sure, yeah, and I played varsity as a freshman. It was a smaller school. It wasn't the smallest, but it was in a really good conference, and had a pretty solid freshman season. But I don't know. I think I'll go back to a comment that when we moved from Bern to Warsaw, I was young enough, I didn't know what was going on. And then as I was, in elementary school in Warsaw, we were going to move again. And so I always remember saying to you, it's like, well, I didn't want to move to Warsaw, and it was great. And so I don't want to move to Michigan. So I guess it's probably going to be even better, and I got to have an open mind. And so we took that open mind up to Michigan. But, I ended up, was able to play all 4 years at a high school. Had a pretty successful high school career. Was first team All-State a couple times and scored a lot of points. But I think for me, the thing that I've learned is, there's always opportunity on the other side of your comfort zone. And if you're hearing this right now and you're thinking about something that's uncomfortable, whether it's growing personally or in your job or professionally, I think there's a lot of beauty on the other side of your comfort zone. It doesn't feel good going through it. And, I think our life is like that. And then IPFW called again. And I think I was a student of the game at an early age before I knew what being a student of the game was. And it's because of, all the sayings and the quotes that I've heard over the years. The one that sticks out the most is when you say there's more to life than basketball, but through basketball you can learn many lessons about life, and that's kind of the definition of student of the game. Like whatever game you're playing, for us, for our family, it was basketball, and we learned a lot about life. I say this podcast was birthed because I have a master's degree in business from the locker room. Whatever you're going through in life, you can learn from it. It has clues if you pick up those clues, and I think you use those clues to follow your passion. And I remember the conversation of, hey, you've committed to Spring Arbor. I wanted to play for my dad. I was recruited. There were some Division I schools recruiting me. Not a lot of smaller schools were recruiting me because they probably figured if I was going to go to an NAIA school, I'd play for my dad. Got recruited Division I, and I just kind of made a decision early, and I said, I'll never get this chance again. I'll never get this opportunity again. So let's try it. And then
Yeah.
you came back, after my senior year. I remember we lost the first game in the playoffs in high school. We got upset, and you just kind of said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I just said, "Hey, let's try it." So
Yeah, I think I waited till your season was done, but they
mhm.
had called back, and Doc Skelton, who is a Hall of Famer at Purdue Fort Wayne now, called me back, and I actually turned him down again, and then he called and said, "Doug, you really need to take a look at this because you're from the area, and your son can play here. It's great. We're thinking we're going Division I." So I remember asking you, and your first thought was, "I don't think so." And then we talked a little bit more, and I said, "Well, let's just go look, and then you decide where you want to go to college, and I'll coach you there." And that was really an out for me to let you decide, not me. And if I decided and it turned out wrong, then it would have been on me. So I was kind of like, "You go down, let's look. You decide where you want to go to college, and then I'll coach you there." And it ended up at IPFW, and it was a start of Division II, and then transitioned into Division I, and it was not easy by any stretch of the imagination. But again, we built a foundation for John Kaufman and Purdue Fort Wayne. I was just out there yesterday watching practice, talking to John, and I'm proud of what they're doing right now at the university, and also the men's basketball and other programs out there as well. But proud that we got everything started Division I.
Well, I think for me, when I think about that, and yeah, PFW is an amazing program right now. If you're in Fort Wayne and you want to see a great brand of basketball, head over to the Coliseum, watch the men's and the women's programs. They're both phenomenal. So the coaches are doing a great job. Student of the Game is brought to you by Noll Team Real Estate. Our mission is to eradicate mediocre real estate transactions. On your largest financial purchase, you shouldn't have to deal with average. We do this by helping you save time, reduce your stress, and helping you keep as much money in your pocket as we can. You can help us out by introducing us to your friends or family who want to make confident real estate decisions, whether buying, selling, building, or investing. At Noll Team Real Estate, we are connected to a group of realtors who sell 1 in every 8 homes in North America. If you know someone moving out of your area, there's a great chance we can connect them to somebody we know, like, and trust. Remember, relationships win. Now back to the show. What you're going through right now, what you, the listener, are going through right now, I hope you understand it's not in vain, because it was a challenge. Like to say taking that program from Division II to Division I, not being in a conference, always playing these guarantee games where you're getting paid money, but you're getting your head knocked in every single night. You maybe have a chance to win, but probably not. And understand there's a bigger purpose. Like I look back now and I say, we helped start that. That it's not where it is today without us starting it. And we didn't enjoy going through it, but we are now enjoying the fruits of the labor. And so I was just telling Delaney the other night, like, you have to understand that you were that little girl going to the basketball games and wanting to be that girl. Now there are little girls coming to your game tonight and they want to be you. That's a responsibility that you have to do something with. If you're leading a team, if you're a leader, a manager, if you lead people, which is everybody, there are people who want to be in your position and you feel bad for the position you're in. There are people who wish they had your life. And so I think that's important to understand too, is, in business, you're not just building it for you and for what you're getting. Like there's the bigger purpose. And when you work for that bigger purpose, there's I think a deep level of appreciation for what you're going through. I have it now. I maybe didn't as much. So tell us a little bit about, that journey through Division I. And then I think the climax of this story ends in a different direction, but walk us through that.
Yeah, we when we transitioned, it was kind of a lot of excitement in the community, and we had Oregon State coming in. We started off with Morehead State, and it was a process, and we were competitive. I can say that we didn't win a lot of games, but we were competitive. But, as we went longer and longer, we became what I would consider the cash cow of the university. And our chancellor didn't even know that we could play basketball games and get paid for them. So I kind of told him that, and maybe I shouldn't have, because then he started wanting more and more guarantee games. To give you an example, today, like Purdue Fort Wayne may play 3 guarantee games a year. And right now they'll get over probably $100,000 per game. Back when we started, we were getting $35,000 a game. And I think we ended up in our biggest year playing 15 guarantee games. Now, what that means is we're playing high-end universities, Power Conference Fives, Notre Dame, Michigan State, Purdue, Marquette, Iowa State. We played them all. And that added up to a lot of losses too. And it gets difficult sometimes when you're in practices and you're explaining to the team, what we need to do to win. And in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, I'm not sure, we're going to win, but I've got to continue to be positive and got to continue to have these players trust me as we move forward through Division I. And the biggest issue, and they're doing it right now, but the biggest issue was we were not in a conference when we started in Division I. And so you couldn't play conference games. You didn't have rivals. IUPUI maybe was our only rival. And but as we went through it, and I look back today, I don't remember a whole lot of the bad. I remember a lot of the good, the relationships that have been built, the players that I still stay in touch with. And going out to practice yesterday, Coach had him in a circle and called me over and introduced me to the team. And because I was actually at Norfolk State last year in their very last game where they were playing in the coaches tournament at the end of the year for the championship, and got beat, but I got to see the team there. So, he said, hey, if you guys don't know Coach Noll, he's the one that built this foundation and started the program 23 years ago in Division I. So it's come a long way, but at the end of the day, we didn't do the job we wanted to, but we did the best we could.
Well, and I think it's important I'm going to speak to my team here for a second. So if everybody's listening, if you can just kind of know that I'm speaking directly to my team right now, I think there's a lot in your story that we can relate to. So you tell me, you went from top of the world Spring Arbor, nationally ranked, top 5 in the country year over year, playing for the national championship, like having that type of a caliber team. You had an unbelievable record, an unbelievable success at Spring Arbor. And then you go to IPFW and we can't win any games. And I think that feels a lot like the real estate market. When interest rates are 3%, everybody's buying. And when interest rates are at 7 or 8%, nobody's buying. And you have to ask yourself, is it because I'm a bad realtor? Like, did you ever say, am I a bad coach? Right? I mean, you got put in a situation that hardly anybody could have had success in. And I think what we have to do is we have to find those clues that show us, like, hey, the environment we're in doesn't make us good or bad, right? I mean, you had success at Spring Arbor, and the fact that we couldn't transition that over to IPFW doesn't necessarily say how you were as a coach. And so in this real estate environment, if you're in an industry right now that is a little challenging, you've got to ask yourself, okay, how do you win in this environment? And I think you have to start peeling that back a little bit. How do you win in this environment? And I think what I see is there's so many similarities to coaching as there is to running a business. And I want to give you credit because I think you were set up to fail. It was a very tough position, but I think you handled it well. And the best part of it is the connection you have with the program now, knowing that they are appreciating you. They're elevating you as kind of like that. You're the Mount Rushmore of IPFW. I mean, the one that got it started, and somebody else had to take it over and make it better. And now there's more tools and there's more resources, and that's great. And I don't think that there's any bitterness from that, but. So then walk me through, you had a famous saying that says, coaches either get fired or they retire, one of the two. You usually don't just set off into the sunset, very easily. So walk us through what happened when you got let go.
Yeah, the coaches usually get fired or they're going to be fired down the road, but including the great Bob Knight from Indiana. So, we struggled, but we won some games. We were competitive. I remember going to Purdue and playing against Coach Gene Cady. And, we were kind of the stepsister school. And we went down to their tournament and ended up, we had an Indiana All-Star. We had Dave Simon, our center, who was ranked the second best center in the country behind Miki Okafor of UConn. And we're down 1 at half, and we lose by 11. And Gene came up to me and said a couple words like, if you play like that the rest of the year, Doug, you'll never get beat. And he said a couple other words in there that I don't want to say on the podcast. But I said, whatever, Gene, but thanks for having us. And we were competitive. But on the long run, we just got wore down. It just took a toll on myself and my staff. And so in January, I think in my 6th season, I got called into the office and remember the day, remember everything. And they said, you're going to be fired. And it kind of just numbing. I just was like, in some ways it was a relief. Other ways it really, really hurt. And I didn't know really quite what to do. I went home and I was home by myself, just kind of looking at the 4 walls, wondering what was going to happen next and everything. And all of a sudden I started getting a lot of calls from other coaches and actually had some offers, to coach other programs the following year. I had a press conference and Mark Pope at the time, my athletic director, who I'm very good friends with, asked me what I was going to do. And I said, it's just my time to thank everybody in Fort Wayne and especially the university for giving me the opportunity. We didn't get there. We didn't finish what we started. But I wanted to thank the media. I wanted to thank all the people that have, stuck with us. And so I did that and then just kind of didn't know what to do for a while. But I had a lot of opportunity to go into coaching, but your sister, Abby Grubbs now, was in her 3rd year at Bethel College. And I really gave it a lot of thought, but it's like, I got to see you every day in practice. I got to see you play every game for 4 years, but I didn't get to see Abby a lot. And so if I went into coaching and had to move to Texas or something, I just didn't feel like that was a good move for me at the time and the family. And so I decided not to go into coaching, but to stay in Fort Wayne. And I got to see Abby play the last couple years of her career, where she became the all-time leading scorer at Bethel College for at least 1 year. And they went to the national tournament. So it was really a good decision. A part of that, Brad, I can tell you, is there's always ups and downs in life. And there's 2 things that can happen. One, you can get bitter about the whole thing. And if you're bitter and upset and angry, the people you're bitter and upset and angry at, they don't know that. It's just you carrying all inside. The other part is you can get better and you can move on and chalk it up to experience with all the kids that I, have been able to coach, all the people that I knew in Fort Wayne. And to this day, I can walk back to a ball game like we did the other night and see 8 to 10 people that I've had relationships with and chat with them. Tonight, I'm sure the Homestead game, I'm going to see a lot of people. And there's a lot of people coming out that know me that are coming out to the game to see Delaney play because, relationships I have with them. So, I always look at it that, there's always going to be struggles in life and you're always going to have ups and downs. But the biggest thing is, you just got to keep moving forward and, learn from situations and mistakes, but don't carry them with you. Just continue to be positive and be a shining light. I like the golden rule. That's how I grew up. I want to treat people like I want to be treated. I want to be kind. And so, I moved on from that, stayed in Fort Wayne. It was difficult for a while, but after the fact, you look back now and you're proud of the program that they have out there at Purdue Fort Wayne.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. I don't know many people that are willing to just jump on a podcast and talking about the time that they got fired because it's humbling, and probably humiliating, but humbling at the same time. And I have a lot of respect for you and for many coaches that are out there because what the general public doesn't understand is the news does not follow you to work. Picture this. Picture, it's a Wednesday. You're listening to this podcast on a Wednesday. I don't know when you're listening to this podcast, but whatever day you're listening to this podcast, Act like the news is going to come to your work today, and they're going to report how you did tomorrow to everybody. I mean, that's essentially the life that you lived, is they gave you a grade every single time you went to work. Is your team ready for the preseason? Did you recruit well? How's your recruiting class? Did you play well? Did you win? Did you lose? That happened every single day. And so that's the life that I grew up watching. I watched, my dad in the spotlight of people critiquing him at work every single day. And so I think that kind of built some resiliency in me. That built some mental toughness to say, okay, if that's how you're going to be, critiqued every day, then I need to go to work, just like they're watching me too. And so thanks for sharing about the firing. What's crazy that I don't think you shared with the listeners is your last game coaching was against Wyoming, which is where you played for a year, and the athletic department asked you to get one more game that year, and that's the game that you went and got for them so that they can make some more money. Not about them, right? There's no ill feelings there, but it's ironic, the irony of you played at Wyoming, you got that extra game, and then that was your last game coaching. So thanks for sharing about that, because like I said, I think people can see their own selves, their own story in that story. So we talk about, we're going a little rogue today. I got my dad on the podcast, if you don't know this, and we usually talk about mastering the fundamentals. We talk about falling in love with practice and winning at the game of life. And we could probably do an hour podcast, may have you back as a guest again and get through some story time. But winning at the game of life. This is something that I got to share something real quick. So after you got fired, you had a basketball academy. You gave lessons to kids. You were one of the premier places where kids in our area came for lessons for basketball training. Now there's a bunch of options, and there's a lot of really good options. But you were kind of at the forefront of that. We'll skip over that. But then one day, I remember just sitting and talking to you. I'm like, man, you should get your real estate license. You're like, what? No, I already did that in the 80s. I said, hey, interest rates are not 18%. Okay. I get your real estate license. Everybody in Fort Wayne. And at that time I just started building a team, and I said, we'll take care of everything. You just got to go meet people and help people buy and sell homes, and we'll take care of everything else. I remember this story. It's been a while since I've shared this with you, but so technically, like this isn't how we were. Like I'm the leader of Noll Team Real Estate. Okay. I don't look at myself as the boss, but if for the sake of the drill, let's just say I'm the boss at Noll Team Real Estate. I remember I played for you, and as much joy as I got from it, it was miserable playing for you physically. Like more sprints, more running, more training, right? And you put me through the ringer. And now I get to be your boss, and I'm like, this is going to be amazing. I can't wait to make him run a sprint.
Karma.
Yeah. But I remember going to lunch one day with you, and I think it was the summer. It was hot. I had some shorts on. We went and got some sushi or something. And I remember one of your buddies coming in, and he looked at me. I could tell he was eyeing me up and down, wearing my shorts. And he looked at me and said, your boss lets you wear shorts to work? And I didn't have the heart to tell him who was the boss at that point, but I let that one slide. But it was a lot of fun having you on our real estate team, and you had a lot of success in that, because I think this is the theme I want the whole entire podcast to know is everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs a coach. And you being an actual coach, you coached people in their real estate decisions. You coached buyers make great decisions. You coached sellers. I remember there was nobody better on our team that when a seller was getting ready to put their home on the market, I remember you getting listings because you were the one that was honest with somebody and says, you need new mulch, you need fresh mulch, you need to clean your landscaping up, you need to do this to your house. You were coaching buyers and sellers in their transactions, and you were giving them advice. And it's something that you may not have intentionally done, but that's just who you are, right? I mean, you coach. And so you've got this hashtag now, call the coach. And that's your big thing. Tell people what you're doing now. You are the national sales director. And before we hit record, we just kind of had a little moment here, and we said, isn't it ironic? I'm going to keep using the word ironic or irony. There's irony in knowing that you left a career to go coach, and it's a career that you ended up getting fired from, and you now, being out of basketball, are coaching more people than you did when you were there. You're still coaching. Call the coach. Yeah. What are you doing now?
Well, it all stems back from you getting me involved in real estate again back in 2009. And I'm like, you mean I have to go take tests and go to school again? And so I did, and I passed my real estate exam and had a great time working with you and the Noll team. And then had a shift in life and ended up moving to Pinehurst, North Carolina, almost 6.5 years ago. But while I was here with the Noll team, I used a warranty company called Home Warranty Incorporated, and kind of funny name for a home warranty company, but I guess that's all they could come up with. So, home warranty, you need a home warranty with Home Warranty Incorporated. So I used that home warranty for probably 6-7 years while I was in Fort Wayne. And a good friend of mine who was the sales rep at the time, Scott Kellenberger, reached out when I had moved to North Carolina. And I also got my real estate license in North Carolina. So I had it in Indiana and North Carolina, and Rhonda did too. And then Home Warranty reached out and said, listen, we need somebody in Virginia and North Carolina, and we think you fit the bill. You're a broker, and you've used our company for quite a while. So about 5 years ago, I jumped in my car and started driving all over, trying to, sell home warranties. But more so, I used my real estate background as a broker to really assist other realtors and other brokers because I had the experience and that I was able to get to their level to talk to them about why home warranties are important, not just pitch home warranties, because I actually sat on their side of the desk. So I did that for 4.5 years, and I had a great territory. I mean, I went to the Outer Banks, Virginia Beach, all over down the coast. I really enjoyed it. And then our company was bought out a few years back by a Fortune 200 company out of Florida. My boss, Jane, ended up becoming CEO for our company, and she hired me as the national sales director, overseeing a team of about 27 sales reps. And because of my real estate and coaching background, she thought that would really be, exciting. And while other home warranty companies right now are, pulling people off the road and downsizing, we actually have we've had 6 new positions, I should say, this year for sales reps. So we're actually growing exponentially as we move, and we're a national company now. So I've been doing that for not quite 2 years as the national sales director. I don't deal with realtors per se anymore, but I deal with our sales reps. We
team.
just came off our team.
Your team.
Exactly.
You're coaching them.
I'm coaching them, trying to coach them up. We do it kind of like a football team where I've got 7 coaches that probably have 80 years experience all told with Home Warranty Incorporated. And they coach a couple people in their pod and talk to them each week. And then once a month, they get together with their team of 3, maybe 4. And then we just try to be the best company we can be by, continuing to gain education, to, in this tough market where there's less sales transactions last year than in 1993, 30 years. So, there's things that are tough in our business too, but, you just keep fighting through and trying to be the best we can be at what we do. And so I get a lot of joy in that. People look at me, why aren't you retired? And it's like, I've never seen that word in the Bible, so I guess I just keep on going.
You were, if my memory serves me right, you were Rookie of the Year in your 60s at Home Warranty Inc. Like Rookie of the Year, how about that?
At 65, right? So,
I want to do something real quick. I think I could turn this into another episode, and I think we should. That'd be a lot of fun. We could go back and talk about stories, but I want people to hear the perseverance. I want people to hear chasing your passions. I want people to hear, your resiliency. And I guess publicly, I want to thank you for, my childhood and growing up the way that I did. I wasn't always grateful for it at the time when you were coaching me up about cleaning my room, but I'm proud of it, and I think you've been through things, and we didn't even talk about you coaching overseas and doing camps, and you and Mom setting up Cougar basketball camp, and you're making money off the concession stands. Like, you literally were resourceful and doing so much. And so one of the things is in our podcast, we talk about master the fundamentals, fall in love with practice, and winning at the game of life. And I think you've taken that outlook of, whatever I'm going through is going to make me better. And you just kept chasing that. So on this podcast, we believe relationships win. And, I think, I'm the founder of Creating Relationships Win, but I think I have to say you inspired me for that. And so relationships do win. And so my kids are like, hey, give this man his flowers, send him some flowers. And we believe relationships win. And so who do you think is somebody that, you want to give some flowers out that's really helped you maybe, see life the way you have, like you're optimistic, you move on, you chase your passions. Who do you want to give some flowers out that's helped you along the way?
Well, I think, this might sound a little corny, but I would like to give you some flowers because, I've watched you grow your business for 20 years, and I've learned a lot from you, which I think is kind of strange, but not. If you grew up in our household, you know the competitiveness that we have. And, so I try to learn from everyone. And, I've watched you grow your business and work with your team as well. And I think that's, I'm very proud of that. As I've always said, despite their parents, our kids turned out really well. And that goes by saying. But I'd also like to give Rhonda some flowers. She's been great. She's gone down to Pinehurst. And I remember when I asked her, we were going down 3 or 4 times a year. And one day I said, you ever think about moving there? And she's like, yeah, you'd leave your kids and grandkids. And I said, yeah, they can come visit. They might like to play golf too. So,
and now we did. Now we got a golfer who came down and play.
Now, there you go. So, those are they're two, but your family as well has been great. And I'm here this weekend just because I'm a proud grandpa, and I got to watch my granddaughter play golf, and now I got the middle granddaughter get to watch her play basketball. So it's a family thing, but it's really important, and family first, and so that's been great.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I wanted to introduce my audience to the founder, the original, the OG student of the game. I've learned a lot, and appreciate you getting on here. Hopefully you, the listener, you've learned something today. You heard kind of my story through my dad and his eyes and what he's been through and what he's accomplished and what he's overcome. And if I can just share the message of hope and the message of pursue your passions, the money will follow you. And just keep focusing on those fundamentals, fall in love with practice, and eventually you're going to win at the game of life. So,
hey, Brad,
Dad, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah. And the last thing is, above my real estate desk, when I was working for you, I had this saying, problems are the price of progress. And so whenever you have a problem, you can't sweep it under the rug. You got to take it on full bore, straight ahead, and take care of the problems and just keep moving forward in life.
That's awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, relationships win, and I know I'm winning with this relationship. So thanks, Dad.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to Student of the Game podcast. Whatever game you are playing, I'm cheering for you. See you in the next class.